Hello, bot fans, and welcome to another edition of Red Square, Blue Square, your go-to for BattleBots recap and reaction. I'm your host, Richard Tiemann, and this is episode number 8. And yes, we are back to your regularly scheduled Red Square, Blue Square programming after a hilarious episode with BattleBots commentary team Chris and Kenny. And if you haven't seen that episode, you are missing out. So make sure that you go and watch it. It's available on the F.A.N Show YouTube channel and Facebook page. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button and the thumbs up to give it a like. So I have another pair of great guests this evening as we inch closer and closer to the tournament of 32. But before we get into the discussion, let me remind you, or actually, John.
Warning, this episode is full of spoilers, so you've been warned.
You heard him. So what are we waiting for? Let's break down this amazing episode of BattleBots and welcome my guests tonight. In the red square is a man who is such a big fan of Jean-Claude Van Damme that he named his bot after his third best movie. Give it up for Justin Marple of Bloodsport. Welcome, Justin. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
And in the blue square, he's more than huge. He's actually a very big Dill, and that pun will never get old. Hailing from Seattle, Washington, the captain of Big Dill, Emmanuel Carrillo. Welcome, Emmanuel. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's good to see you. Origin stories. Let's go ahead and start with you, Eman. Big Dill. There's got to be an inside joke or something behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it boils down to that my kind of team name is Team Food Fight. And so all my robots are kind of food based or food pun. So we have like one of them is like the Big Smack, Pizza Slicer and all these kind of food puns. And when we built a heavyweight, it was just like trying to think of a big food pun. And that just, was a super easy one. Big Dill. And then the branding kind of makes itself. So
has Jimmy John's reached out to you about being a sponsor for your bot, since they always include the dill pickle spears with their sandwiches?
Oh, no. I mean, I would be awesome to get some type of food sponsor. For a while, one of the competitors, Andrew from Deep Six, had a hot dog place, and I always thought it'd be cool to have like a hot dog sponsor.
All right, Justin, let's get the real origin story, and I really hope that I was at least a little close with the Jean-Claude Van Damme part there, but I feel like
no. It's funny. The whole team, none of us have actually watched the movies yet. Not a single one. So no, not the biggest fan. The name originated from so Jack from Endgame has a bot called Bad Blood. It's a little 30-pounder, and I don't know, I kind of like that name. And when we were applying, we only had like 2 days to apply, and I was like Bad Blood, and eventually just got to Bloodsport. Not really sure how, but it just came to mind, and wrote it down, put some blood splatter on the bot graphic, and submitted the application. So
not nearly as interesting as I thought, but it does make for a great t-shirt. This is a good one.
Oh yes, it's a great, great t-shirt.
Well, you guys, we are just about to the round of 32. You guys were kind of in different spots as far as your season hanging in the balance at this point, where Justin, you guys were on that elite 3-0 list, which we did add another as we lost 2 from the 2-0 list. And then Eman, you guys, you had a great debut. Really, I don't think you could have asked for much better than that. But then the next 2 were really tough. And at this point, I mean, were you thinking, was there enough to get you guys into the 32, or were you already thinking about ways that you could improve the bot for next season?
At this point, I people are like, oh, you still have a chance, But in my head, I was just like, we're 1-2, and our one win is against a rookie team, and it's just not enough. We don't have the pedigree that like Tombstone has, where they kind of beat a new rookie team. That they can kind of go off of what they've done in the past, but I just don't think we had enough enough of a good showing to really sneak in. We still got our bot ready and hoping for the best, but at 1-2, I just think we're too new to kind of get in.
It's good that you understand that that's kind of where you guys were and not holding out any kind of false hope. But this was your first year, in the captain's chair. You were previously with Warhawk, who we mentioned a little earlier. So what was that experience like for you at this point in the season?
I realized how much work a captain actually has to do building a robot is one thing, but having to deal with all the team logistics, getting the robot there, shipping, on top of all the interviews you have to do when you're there, it just kind of ends up being like another job on top of kind of the robot thing. And not everyone is cut out to be a captain. And luckily, I don't think it was too bad. But yeah, there's definitely people that are just a little bit, can do a really good job. I had Mason be the captain for Bad Catter, and he just he nails it. He's a super awesome captain and really good, project manager. And same thing with Pharaoh. Pharaoh is really good project manager, kind of keeps the team running and takes that role super seriously of making sure that, everybody's ducks are in a row and the team's in tip top shape.
Yeah, the captain's role, especially for an event like BattleBots, where there's a lot of production value and they want to have a lot of face time with the face of the team, which happens to be the captain, whether you're the driver or not. I will give you full 100% agreement that Martin Mason does a terrific job of playing the role of captain, that's his job, and he designates the roles to the rest of the members of his team. So for someone like you, I could see that it would be quite the adjustment. You got to look good, got to look pretty for the camera. And there's some days where you can tell that you're fresh out of the pit, having pulled an all-nighter trying to get your bot fixed up. So props to you guys for making it happen. Now, as I mentioned, I'm originally from Spokane, Washington, but we relocated to Sioux Falls, South Dakota last year. And funny thing is that, Eman, you actually have a pretty big fan here in South Dakota. This is Connor, and Connor is awesome. A huge fan of yours. I'm going to say he's unofficially your biggest fan for probably obvious reasons.
Oh, yeah.
You picked up on that. When I told him about Big Dill, he watched the episode, and his dad told me that he was so taken back by it and impressed with you. His exact words were, "I love seeing people like me be successful and be awesome at what they do." So how has that aspect of your run this season, as well as being captain, been for you looking back?
It's awesome to hear things like that. And that's kind of one of the reasons that I wanted to be a captain, was just trying to get out in front of the camera. I've been behind the scenes for a while, and all my friends were always like, "Oh, when are you going to do it? It's a good story. You kind of show people that, hey, you can." On top of it, I'm not an engineer. I'm a designer. I'm an artist. I went to art school. So you don't have to go to, design or, crazy engineering school to do this. You can build within your means. These kind of robots allow anybody to be a super awesome, athlete, and kind of compete. There's, a ton of super awesome, kind of differently abled people in the sport. And if you go to Robo Games or any of these smaller competitions, they're all over the place. And it's super awesome that, we get kind of this platform to show that, hey, you can kind of, regardless of your situation, you can build and fight robots.
Yeah, so I will say, I wasn't surprised that you could do what you do, because Connor's very good at video games. He beats his older brother all the time, and it's frustrating as hell from what I hear, is that, he's just that good. And so I was impressed, however, with how well you did in that first fight and then all season. So were you impressed with yourself? How do you feel you did? Would you grade yourself A, B, C, D?
I guess for the first bot and kind of how the bot came together, it's kind of thrown together from spare parts from other robots all cobbled together. I'd give myself a B. I'm happy we got a win. That's always what we want. We went against two great robots, legend robots, and held our own, and that's all we want. Getting 3 televised fights is great. If you get stuck in the montage or the untelevised fight, that's you kind of feel a little bit bad, but getting 3 televised fights is that's an A+ in my book.
So Justin, you sit up there amongst an elite group at 3-0, and you guys, as they said in the commentary, were just kind of kicking back, watching to seeing who you might go up against. Now, your strength of schedule, your record, your strength of victories, all very good. But first thing I have to know is the decision to, I guess, kind of dial it back in last week's episode. Is that actually what happened, or what was going on there in that fight?
Yeah, it goes half and half. We were having some issues with the weapon. It was so Aaron is the one who does the weapon controls, and he felt that there was something not quite right with the weapon. So he makes the decision of, hey, something's not quite right. I'm just going to dial it back for like a few seconds just to make sure nothing's overheating or anything like that. So it is strategic in that we're making a decision like, oh, something's not quite right. Let's stop for a second. And if we're winning at that point, there's no reason to keep pushing. There's no reason to keep like, oh, it's not working. Let's just keep doing it. Like, no, let's back off.
You could have very well probably gotten the knockout. I believed you could have, but now hindsight, you guys are in the 3-0 with 3 other bots. There's 4 of you as of right now, and seeding is going to be very crucial going into a tournament of 32, the biggest field that we've seen. I think ever for BattleBots. Do you feel like the decision to let it go to decision might hurt your seeding at all?
It could. It's really hard to know what's in the minds of the committee who sets up the brackets. Maybe they see the Scorpios fight is really strong, or maybe they really value the Kronos fight, or maybe they saw like, oh, we slowed down. Maybe that's a good thing in their eyes. It's difficult to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of big hitters this year that are usually seated super high that have a chance to be in that bottom. So it's not a true top 32 in terms of power rankings.
Let's go ahead and break down this fight card. I thought it was great matchups all the way through, some very interesting ones, and a lot of bots that really needed a win just to get on the committee's radar if they thought maybe they weren't. Out of 7, there were 3 decisions, the most we've seen this season, and they were all 3 unanimous decisions, starting with Shatter over Captain Shredderator. Shatter moves to the 2-1 list. Very impressive win. I felt bad for Captain Shredderator because it just seems like it either is all going right for him or all going wrong for him. But I'm impressed with Shatter. How impressed are you, Eman, with Shatter and what you saw from the hammer swinging bot?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, being this person that drove a hammer bot last year, like getting any win with the hammer is always super impressive, and knocking somebody out is even more impressive. And Adam's shown that Shatter can take hits and deal damage, and as long as his hammer is kind of hitting as hard as it needs to, he's if you watch the slow-mo of that fight, he's like going through that Lexan on the top of Shredderator, and really causing some damage there.
And Justin, how about for you? Because obviously it seems like it's the age of spinners, but to have a bot like Shatter, and Adam Wrigley even went on to explain more of their design towards the end of the episode tonight. But there's a lot that goes into a bot like that, and then to be driven as well as it is, and the precision hits and pinning them into a corner. Like you guys are sitting pretty at 3-0, but here's a bot like Shatter. Like, you guys want to face this bot in the 32?
Yeah, no, Shatter it's a scary bot for sure. The way I'm really impressed by how well they can manage to work with the Omni wheels, because that's not an easy design at all. Omni wheels are normally something that's going to be a failure point for sure, and they managed to make it work. So it's really impressive. The thing that really got me was the how easily it went through that polycarb on Captain Shredderator, because that's something like even on Team Bloodsport we're talking like, well, what if we have to go against Shatter? Like, they have this really fine tipped hammer, like it would just go through our blade and go into our chassis one way or another. Like, could we use polycarb? And now the answer is like, well, no, you can't use polycarb because there's going to break straight through it. So yeah, it's always impressive to watch them.
Yeah, there's going to be some really good matchups, I feel, in this tournament of 32. Now, if you look at it and you divide it 16 and 16, a top and a bottom, just like we're normally used to as a top 16 going into the tournament phase of the season, we have Shatter at 2-1, who I think has probably earned themselves in the top 16. I don't know about top 10. I'd have to look at the field and see just where I would place everybody, but very impressive wins for those two. And then, tough loss, but Captain Shredderator 1 and 2, impressive win. 2 heartbreaking losses. They have the history, they have the name, the pedigree. So I'll ask you guys as fellow builders and competitors. We'll start with you, Justin. Captain Shredderator, top 32, in or out?
I would have to say out, I guess. They seem to have the same issue where they're really, really, really strong. Like, you don't want to hit them until something happens, and then they're not. It seems to be a pattern throughout all their fights. So I don't know.
Eman is a fellow 1 and 2 bot at this point in the season. What do you think? Outside looking.
No. I mean, in my head, any 1 and 2 bot is out unless you got that big name. Unless you've been there before. If you're 1 and 2, I don't know how it breaks down. I'm sure that there'll be some 1 and 2 bots that get into the top 32, but I think I'm guessing most of the people in the top 32 are going to be 2-win teams. I think just math wise, that's how it works out. But yeah, if you're 1 and 2, you have to have a crazy knockout, crazy strength of schedule, and just a big name.
3 fights, it's tough to have a lot of kind of on the bubble records. You're either a winning record or a losing record. There's not a 50-50 like we've seen in seasons before. So Captain Shredderator at 1 and 2, it would be tough for me to put them in there, but I will say all 3 of their fights have been televised. So there's clearly something there that the folks behind the curtain believe in to keep putting them out there, but that would be a tough call for me. Gigabyte gets a knockout win over Claw Viper, fellow Seattle bot, just like yourself, Eman. Gigabyte, good for them. Another spinner. What did you think of the knockout and the victory for them, Eman?
Oh yeah, I mean, when Gigabyte's working, that thing is
nasty.
is unstoppable. They have their teething issues with their shafts breaking. But yeah, when they spin, they hit hard.
That would be a tough spinning bot to go up against for you, Justin. Now, you guys are different types of spinning bots, but I mean, wow. I would be excited for that fight. Would you be excited to take on Gigabyte?
Not really. It hits so hard. Like, no, Gigabyte's actually one of my favorite bots to watch live. Like, it is so, like, some things on TV it doesn't translate. I think Gigabyte's one of those bots that just doesn't translate. Like, it translates well, but not as well as it is in real life. That thing is just so loud when it's hitting things and launching itself in the air. And I mean, I would love to fight him just because for the legacy of it, but it'll be a tough bot to fight.
Well, I'm going to say I want to see the fight. So we'll see if BattleBot sides with me, a spectator, or you, a competitor, and see which one they want. Hopefully the stars align that way. Hijinks moves to 2-1 against Chomp. Of course, Chomp's been kind of one of the many stories this season, a 500-pound walking bot that still swings a mean hammer, just like Shatter does. Hijinks gets it. Chomp, I do love the concept. It was great to see this come to life on the big stage that is BattleBots Fight Night. But, as a fan, and I say this knowing full well that when it comes to the sport of football, I love defense. So even if it's a lower scoring game, I'm okay with that. But BattleBots, it's like, I want to see hits. I want to see action. And Chomp just... it's not quite there yet. Justin, when you look at Chomp and see them, do you see the future of BattleBots, or is this something that's going to be kind of a here and there if we see people try to take on the 500-pound challenge?
No, Chomp is an engineering marvel. Like, I wish they'd show more of it on TV, because when you look at the intricate parts and all the crazy engineering they went into that, it's just beautiful. Like, it's something to admire. Whether or not 500-pound robots are going to be the future, I think they'll iterate. I think they'll become better over time. I don't know if they'll become the dominant meta going forward, but I think it has improvement.
Just building a 500-pound robot is a challenge in itself, right? Like, getting a walking robot to work as well as they got it to work off their first try is insane. I think most builders that on BattleBots wouldn't be able to tackle that challenge. I surely wouldn't be able to make a walking robot.
Well, Chomp, I feel at 1 and 2 would be one of the few at 1 and 2 that could get into the tournament of 32, just because even if it's not your typical cookie cutter entertaining fight, it's still, you want to see as much of this bot as you can. So that may play into it a little later on. But congrats to Jen. This was a huge win for her. As she even said so herself, it's like, this is the Bite Force killer on steroids, which is probably the perfect description for what Chomp is. But congrats to both ladies, Zoe and Jen, and good on Jen for moving into the winning side of a regular season record at 2-1. Witch Doctor finally gets in the win column. That was over Slammo. Slammo drops 2-1, so this was the first loss for Craig Danby, but I really like Slammo. I think that this is finally a design that Craig can be proud of, and as guys that have been through different designs and on different teams, I mean, Eman, what do you think of Slammo and Craig, and is this finally the bot for him?
I think so. I mean, you get a little bit of success. I'm sure he's going to keep running with that. This is the, his first 2 matches, he ran kind of that plow and was able to really control. And this was a new configuration and it just didn't work out for him. So I just think the more fights he gets under his belt, figure out which versions of Slam Out work. Because when you have configurations, every bot is essentially a different robot. And, 2-1 that's great. I mean, that's more wins than some bots have had in their entire career. I think some Discord people were like, yeah, he's got more wins than some people that have been on multiple seasons. So
Witch Doctor had to win that one for sure to even have a chance in the top 32. Witch Doctor, if they go 1 and 2, they have enough legacy where they probably can get in. So it was all or nothing for them. Danby, he's finally, he finally got a bot that, seems to be starting to click. And I think from this match, Witch Doctor worked, and I think Danby learned a few new weaknesses that I'm sure he'll improve in the next version of Slammo. And yeah.
This season, even before the tournament of 32, I really think is the season of unknowns and underdogs. And you see that with Kraken, with Rusty, and just if you look at the 2-1 and the 3-0s, like there's a lot of names on there that you probably were not expecting to be on there when you heard who was competing this season. So just really great on all those folks, just all around, for being able to push through and really make a name for themselves. Copperhead's another one. I mean, wow, very impressive. You didn't see much of them last season, but has been worth every episode this season, which we're coming up to for the main event. Extinguisher over Gruff. Gruff comes out there and controls the whole fight, and then there it is, the knockout that is the most painful knockout to watch in BattleBots. Extinguisher gets its first win. Gruff drops to 1-2. What do you think is going through his mind, and how would your emotions be after a loss like that?
Yeah, I mean, a loss like that's pretty tough. But they have a really interesting drive, because I think correct me if I'm wrong, Eman, but I think they have a brushless and brushed drive in one.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone's ever done that before in BattleBot. So they're running some really interesting stuff there. And
yeah, and they have like a strap lifter. I mean, Gruff is very unique in its engineering, and it doesn't really show. They're kind of treated as like a scrap dog little machine, but that thing has a whole bunch of very interesting things. And even its flame is, if you actually show the mechanism that makes that flame, it's beautiful, like piece of machine or machined aluminum that does that. And so feeling, so as long as you learn something, you're like, okay, I can fix this, I can make it stronger for next time, that the loss is okay. But if you lose and you go back and you just don't know what happened, that's when it feels really bad. And I think everyone's had that feeling where you're just like, I don't know what to fix, I don't know what went wrong.
Next up is Perfect Phoenix, and we had Adam 94, the two disciples of Ray Billings, going against each other. And little Tyler moves to 2-1. He will probably have more wins in BattleBots than anyone in history if he keeps going on this trajectory. and you guys both, big fans of the sport, probably watched it for a long time, probably since you were both little. But to see someone so little compete, like Eman, what have you thought of Tyler in Perfect Phoenix so far?
In the smaller weight classes, he drives a wedge kind of control bot. I really want to see him with a control bot. I don't think Perfect Phoenix is really the type of robot that kind of benefits from his driving. It's it's kind of like attacks from everything. He's always kind of hitting with the weapon, but I want to see him with something a little bit more Big Dill like to really kind of tackle like his kind of driving ability.
Well, Justin, another bot I would love to see you face, but I'm sure you probably don't want to face this one in the tournament of 32. But I think it would be a great match. This was a great match. This was had some of the biggest hits of the night. What do you think of Perfect Phoenix and Young Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, Perfect Phoenix has a bit of a soft spot for me because it's brutality from a different era. So it's really cool to see it come back to life because this is a robot that influenced what I started building with. So to see it, competing alongside, what we're competing with, I really wish we got a picture of the two bots together because we never really did, but it would have been really cool to have had that. And I mean, yeah, Tyler and, his team are doing a fantastic job bringing it back to life, and it delivered a lot of good hits. It's great to see.
All right, well, that brings us to our main event, Copperhead and Black Dragon, and this was a great fight. But what's funny is that I remember saying to myself about midway through, I said, there's a bot in there that reminds me of Minotaur, but it wasn't Black Dragon. It was Copperhead. I mean, they were vicious in there, and they flipped Black Dragon over, and Black Dragon had to drive upside down for a while. But man, this was really something. Almost every episode, I feel like there's a new fight that could be considered fight of the year, and this is definitely up there, definitely in the top 5. But Copperhead gets the win by unanimous decision, not a knockout. They are in the 3-0 with Mad Catter, Jackpot, and Justin's Bloodsport. So, Justin, we'll start with you. You and the other 3-0 bots right now, because there's still a couple that are 2-0 that could join you. But if you guys were to be the top 4 seeds, is there a bot that you least want to face out of the other 3 in the 3-0 category?
Ooh. I mean, I have to give it props to Copperhead. Like, Black Dragon is a terrifying robot. And if I just say there's one robot I don't want to face, it's probably Black Dragon. From personal experience. So props off to them. I mean, they could be number 1 seed for sure. Where it all sits, I really don't know what's going in the head of the selection committee, but yeah, I gotta give my hats off to them.
All 3 of them, all 4 of you definitely have that going for you. So I'm very intrigued to see where the dominoes fall. For you, Eman, you look at the 3-0 and the elite club that it is. Is there a name that jumps out to you from the outside looking in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased. I would say Mad Catter is number 1 there, right? You got Marting, putting on the show, and the bots putting on the show, and this version of it is killer. So, if I can't pick a bot that I designed, I would say, I'd give it to Copperhead. I mean, that thing is scary. Unmaker bot is scary. Poison Arrow scary. Copperhead scary. They're all that drum. I just don't know. Fighting a drum, I just don't know how you beat them. You got to take the hits, and that's really hard for a lot of robots to do.
Who I have left on the 2-0 list is Valkyrie, Uppercut, Hydra, and Beta. And I feel like all of them could very easily advance to 3-0 and join you guys up there, Justin. But the 2-1, this is an interesting list. This is where it's going to get really tricky for the selection committee, and I do not envy them. I'm glad I don't have their job. But we have Shatter, Gigabyte, Hijinks, Slammo, who all had fights this evening. Sub-Zero, Malice, Lockjaw, you may know those names. Ribot, Fusion, Scorpios, Mammoth, and Black Dragon. Man, this would be tough to figure out, like, who's better than who and why. I mean, Scorpios has that amazing knockout win over Tombstone, but Tombstone is 1-2 this season, as surprising as that is. Shatter, very impressive, like we talked about. Gigabyte, when it's good, it's great. Hijinks, good for them, but they only had, 2 televised fights. One was not. And I wonder how much that kind of plays into it. Like, Eman, we'll start with you. If you were on the selection committee, what do you think would be your top 3 criteria for selecting who is at what seed over another bot?
The way I'd want it to work is it's record strength of schedule. You know, you throw it into a computer, it does an elo thing, and it just spits out this is who it is. But that's not how it works. It's not. It's you know, I think a lot of it is like who just puts on a good fight, a good show, and that doesn't necessarily translate over into wins, right? If you knock out somebody, a rookie team in like 10 seconds to a computer, that's like that's like a killer, a killer kind of score. So, I mean, I think it boils down to just like show, record. Well, I guess record first, then show, and then finally just like potential.
Yeah, it's tough because with just 3 matches, it doesn't give you a whole lot of information. So you're really going off of, match feel. How exciting was it? It's tough. It's tough.
I mean, the tough thing is also is like you can only fight who you're given, right? So like
very true.
So you could have 2 easy wins or low strength of schedule wins, and it's not your fault. You know, like that's just the way things were drawn.
Now, I'm sure Discovery and the folks at BattleBots loved the idea of seeing Copperhead go up against Black Dragon. And then the first episode of the season, we saw Endgame get their dream matchup against Tombstone. But how often does it actually work out that way? Justin, when you guys are in the pits, like, aren't you at the mercy of what they feel is going to be good TV and you guys can request fights and maybe, or did that change this year?
You usually can't request fights. I mean, sometimes you can tell them, but it doesn't mean they'll do anything about it. Really what happens is that you find out they publish the fights at like 2 a.m. the morning of. So what I had to do, so something as a captain, I had to wake up at 5 a.m. and find out, were we fighting in 3 hours? Do I need to wake up everyone else? And it really wasn't great, but...
or you stay up all night looking to see if you can...
I can't believe people did that.
I did that. I stayed up till like 2 or 3 a.m. to see if we were fighting the next day.
I wouldn't survive with no sleep. I couldn't do that.
Why 2 in the morning? Like, what are they doing that they couldn't do at 8 o'clock at night?
We asked.
Crunching the numbers. Like, I mean, filming ended late. They had to figure it out. They made the little graphics and we get it at 2, 3, 4 a.m. That was tough. But yeah, another captain thing. Yeah.
Was that every day, or like how many fights out did they have every day?
Every day.
Wow.
And sometimes you weren't on the list and you're like, okay, at least I can sleep in.
Yeah. It's a fun time, even though it's at 5 a.m., but it's still like a whole adventure.
Now, one thing I was curious about, Mad Catter was the first bot to get to 3-0. Him and Malice were the first 2 to have 3 fights under their belts. And then you still have Valkyrie, Uppercut, Hydra, and Beta that need 1 more fight, and we've got 1 episode left. Is this how it played out during the tapings also, or did they decide that, well, we can get these ones out of the way first on television, and then we'll focus kind of more on these? Like, how did that work, Eman?
I think that one actually, that did happen. And that was just Mason being like, we're ready to fight. We're ready to fight. Like, the bots was ready. He was just like pushing to try to get the fights that in and they do that they come around like, hey, are you ready? I think near the end they were like, can you fight tomorrow? I think some people, like, I think we were kind of complaining, we were fighting like back to back, like 2 days in a row, and some people were getting days off.
All right, guys. Well, that does it for this episode of Red Square, Blue Square. Don't forget, new episodes of BattleBots air on Discovery every Thursday at 8, 7 Central. You've got 1 more episode until they announce the tournament of 32, who's in, who's out, and who is not where you thought they would be as far as seeding goes. We'll probably talk about that and much more on next week's edition of Red Square, Blue Square, which is every Friday whenever we get around to uploading the new episodes. So for my guests, Justin and Eman, thank you guys so much for your time. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, guys, I'm Richard Tiemann, and thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time.